All right, we're recording. We don't have participants yet, though. But, there we go.
We can record without participants.
Yeah, all right.
They're not important. I'm the only one important here.
That's right.
And all the followers left.
Good morning, good afternoon, good everybody. How we doing? People hopping on here. Welcome, welcome. Say hello to us in the chat. Welcome to another week of the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar, formerly known as the Diabetes webinar, formerly known as, I don't know what we've called it, but it's our weekly webinar, Barton webinar. Hey, all right. So today we are going to cover some basics, go back to the basics and look at the diabetes solution kit, talk about phase 1. We also have a sneak peek at some new recipes that we're launching really soon that I'm going to share on the screen. And thankfully, Leslie's here this week to record. The 1 week she was gone, I forgot to record, and we covered some of this before. So this will be good to actually have this available on YouTube. So yeah. And if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. And also, if you want to join us live next Tuesday, go register at bartonwebinar.com. Fill out the form there. It's easy. You'll get an email reminder. And if you are we on Facebook yet? Almost. Okay. I'll wait to say anything to Facebook. So, excuse me. I still have a lingering cough from camp a few weeks ago that I'm working on getting over. So I'll probably be muting myself a little bit throughout this. But hey, without further ado, let's introduce the one and only Dr. Scott Saunders. Hello.
One and only. Yeah. So today, basics, and just the basics, starting out with what it is you have. And I gave a talk once about, we call it the diabetes talk, because it pretty much just explains all of the points of diabetes. And in it, I talk about why there is a type 1 and a type 2 diabetes and what the difference is, and why they have the same name when they're not even the same illness at all, not even close. Because in a sense, they're opposite diseases, and yet we have the same name for them. So think about that for a minute. If you have type 1 diabetes, that means your pancreas doesn't make enough insulin, and probably makes no insulin at all. And if you don't have insulin, you can't get macronutrients, mostly carbohydrates, but also proteins, into your cells. And if you can't get them into your cells, then your cells can't do what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to make enzymes and reproduce and do whatever they do, detox if they're in the liver, or move if they're in muscles. And so without that energy and protein, then things don't work. So insulin is essential to the functioning of the body. People who didn't have insulin, who had type 1 diabetes before we knew about insulin, they would just waste away. They would literally die of starvation, having tons of food. They could be eating and eating and eating, and they're still dying of starvation because that food can't get into the cells to allow them to function properly. So that's a really important thing to know, because if you have type 1 diabetes, you're not looking at the type of thing that we're talking about here to decrease your insulin resistance. You may just need insulin. And we've had people come on and say, well, how do I get off insulin? Well, if you have type 2 diabetes, you have an entirely different problem. And that is, you make too much insulin. In fact, you make so much insulin that your cells are like, whoa, stop, I can't handle this anymore. And they just, they block out the insulin so it can't be used anymore. So if you think about it, they're like, oh, one of them, you don't make any insulin. The other one, the insulin doesn't work. So either way, it's not working. And so that's why they have the same name. And the symptom that was primarily used to determine that was the blood sugar. So if the blood sugar is going up, and if you don't have insulin, then the sugar can't get into the cells, so the blood sugar goes up. If you have type 2 diabetes, then the insulin isn't working, and the blood sugar can't get into the cells, and then the blood sugar goes up high. So because they were using that same issue of high blood sugar, they called it the same thing, diabetes. And then they had well, one of them was primarily seen in childhood. Type 1 diabetes, where you lacked insulin, was mostly seen in childhood. And people didn't usually get insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes until later in life. So then they called it adult onset diabetes. Childhood onset diabetes, adult onset diabetes. Well, now we have children getting adult onset diabetes. So it's pretty ridiculous to tell a 5-year-old kid you have adult onset diabetes. So they just changed the name. So they have type 1 diabetes if you don't make enough insulin, and type 2 diabetes if you make too much insulin and you're resistant to it. So that is, in a nutshell, everything you need to know about the difference between type 1 and type 2. Now, why is that important? Because if you go into a doctor's office and they're not making that distinction, if the doctor's thinking diabetes is diabetes is diabetes is diabetes, then they go, oh, your blood sugar's high, here, take insulin. Well, that makes perfect sense if you have type 1 diabetes, but what if you have type 2 diabetes? Does that make any sense? What if you're resistant to insulin? What if you're making too much insulin? Does it make sense for you to start injecting insulin? No, that's making no sense at all. So that's why it's really important for you to know that, to make that distinction, to know that difference. And if you do, then you go into the doctor and you say, and then you ask, what type of diabetes do I have? Oh, you have type 2, you have insulin resistance. Well, how do you know? Well, your blood sugar's high and you're kind of overweight, and I don't know, we make assumptions. You know what? If you don't test, you don't know. So it's really, really simple. There's 2 tests that you can do that are very simple. One is your insulin level, which is often very helpful. I've found it to be very helpful. And the other one is called C-Peptide, and it's just C-Peptide. And peptide is a protein. It's a short protein. What that is when your body makes insulin, when your pancreas makes insulin, the insulin comes out of the pancreas, and part of it is cut off. And so you have the active part of insulin, and the other part is called C-Peptide, and that's an inactive part. But it lasts a little longer in the body and gives you more of an average of how much insulin your pancreas is putting out. So what's cool about that is even if you're injecting insulin, you can measure a C-peptide level, and I can tell you if your pancreas is working or not and how well it's working from the C-peptide level, even if you're injecting insulin, because, you know, if I measure your insulin level, of course, you're going to have insulin, you're injecting it, right? So that makes perfect sense. So that's why you need to know whether you have type 1 or type 2, and the tests that you need to do to determine if you have type 1 or type 2. And then if you have high insulin levels, well, it's ridiculous to start injecting insulin because insulin just causes you to put on fat. Here's the funny thing, fat cells in your body under your skin never get resistant to insulin. You will just making more and more and more fat, more fat, more fat, more fat, more insulin, more fat, more insulin, more fat. You're just going to tell your fat cells, just make more fat because they never get resistant to insulin. The ones that are resistant are the important ones, like your kidneys and your brain and your liver and your heart and your muscles. So you have no energy and your brain doesn't function. And the #1 cause of Alzheimer's or dementia, it's not really Alzheimer's, dementia, is diabetes. And they call it type 3 diabetes because the sugar can't get into the brain. Even though you have super high blood sugar, your brain is starving in a sea of sugar. So if you give more insulin, that doesn't improve your brain function. That doesn't improve your kidney function. You still have resistance. You got to get rid of the resistance. So we created a program, and we thought of a lot of different ways of doing this. You could go online and go, okay, how do I reverse type 2 diabetes? And you get, Google search, and you get 20 million websites in your first 0.001 seconds. And it's going to tell you, and you go, what the heck, where do I start? Well, we've looked at a lot of different ways of doing it, and there's not one best way for everyone, but the way we chose to do it is by using a keto-type diet at the beginning, so you decrease your carbs completely. And when you're not eating carbohydrates, and high protein, by the way, carbohydrates and protein, then you shut off your insulin. And if your pancreas slows down the insulin, then you start becoming more sensitive to the insulin you have. Now, that's a process, not an event. And for some of you, it's going to be a matter of a couple of weeks, maybe 1 week, maybe a couple of weeks. For others of you, it's going to be 6 months down the road. You're going to be on the phase 1 of the program. And it's all detailed and spelled out exactly what you do and how you count the carbohydrates and the types of things that you can eat and can't eat, and the lists and all of that stuff is there. So why is that? Because if you have type 2, remember, you have too much insulin, you've got to get it down. And so that's what our phase 1 of the program does. Are there other ways? Of course there are. There's always another way. But you have to, if you're going to do one of the main other ways, you have to work with a doctor really closely who knows what he's doing, he or she is doing, because most doctors don't. So if you go in and you say, well, I want to get my insulin down really fast because I want to be able to burn fat, and I can't burn fat as long as I have high insulin, because remember, insulin is telling you to make more fat, and you have high insulin, so I got to get my insulin down. So the fastest way to do that is not eating at all, fasting. So, but fasting in somebody who has metabolic problems already, their sugar's going up and down, their insulin's going up and down, you have to be really closely, you have to know where your numbers are and know what you're doing in order to do that. So you have to work with somebody who knows. Whereas the program that we made, anyone can follow. It's like one of those things that oh, anybody can do this, and you're not going to get any severe reactions. The worst that could happen is you might at first get hypoglycemia. And what that means is low blood sugar. But it's a relative low blood sugar. If you're running at 300 all the time, 300, or if you're in Canada, if you're 9, 10, all the time, and then all of a sudden you're down to normal, 70 to 90, then that's a relative low blood sugar, and you might get headache, fatigue, weakness, and go, oh, I can't think clearly, oh, I feel horrible, I gotta eat something. A lot of people say that. That is hypoglycemia. And in a sense, that's okay, because it's relatively important, because that's how you change your metabolism from a primarily sugar burning metabolism to a fat burning metabolism. Sometimes you're going to get hypoglycemia, which causes your body to go, oh my gosh, not enough sugar, we got to start burning fat. And so that initial process of turning it on, it can take a little while. I had somebody who was eating a low carb diet for a while, and he had diabetes, and it took him like 9 days just to be able to say, oh, okay, I'm not getting that fog, that brain fog and fatigue and headaches anymore. So in that case, you may need to work with your doctor and decrease your carbohydrates gradually, because you have a blood sugar monitor. You monitor your blood sugar over time.
But another reason with that dropping down, it would be from medications that are doing that as well. And so maybe you have to like taper that down and work with your doctor to decrease that, or experiment a little bit.
Thank you. Yes. Many of the medications that are being given cause the body to put out extra insulin more than it normally would, so that if your blood sugar starts dropping down and now you have this high insulin, you could start dropping your blood sugar too low, especially if you're injecting insulin. So yes, whenever you started getting low blood sugar, be very wary of your medications. Immediately call your doctor, go, I'm getting hypoglycemia. So, if you're on several medications, which one do I get off first, or do I get off all of them right away? And you might even explain why, what you're doing and why your blood sugar is low, because a lot of doctors are very aware that yes, diet can change your blood sugar. And so if you're going on this special diet to lower blood sugar, the doctor may say, well, let's take you off all your medications and see how it goes from there. Thank you, Joe. That's really important.
So I'll take a little second here to share a little bit more for our first-time viewers, people watching this on Facebook or YouTube. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. You'll be notified every time we publish one of these webinars, which is every week. And we usually have the replay available within a day or two afterwards. And you can also, so like our main website is bartonwebinar.com. That's kind of the hub where you can go and register to join us live on these webinars. We've got several people on right now that are putting in some good questions. And so we'll be getting to questions by the end of our webinar today. And typically we go 45 minutes to an hour. And I also want to share, well, you kind of touched on this, but as far as a disclaimer, this webinar is for informational purposes only. Dr. Saunders is giving generic information and is not, giving personal advice. So don't, come after us with, your lawsuit if you do something strange based on what you hear. So, but Dr. Saunders also, if you do want him to be your doctor, if you have a doctor that's not open to natural methods and getting you off medications and all that, Dr. Saunders does have a clinic that he practices through, and his phone number, Dr. Saunders, if you want to give that, people can call and set up an appointment where you can have that patient-doctor relationship. So what is that number?
Yeah, I have people all over the country calling now. It's 805-805-688-7171.
All right, thank you. So, let's see what else. So today I was actually going to screen share a little bit and show people what the Diabetes Solution Kit looks like real quick, sort of a sneak peek. And if you don't already have a copy of the Diabetes Solution Kit, the hard copy looks like this. Let's see, is my screen showing? I'm seeing maybe Dr. Saunders. Anyways, the hard copy looks like this, but the digital version is available online, and it's only $19.97. You can access it right after you purchase. You can go to bartonwebinar.com and find the link to our store for that. But let's see if I can share my screen. Share. There we go. All right, so this is the Diabetes Solution Kit, and I'm just going to kind of go through some things, and I'll stop along the way. Dr. Saunders, if you want to stop me at any time, feel free. We kind of start out with defining your why. Like, why do you want to reverse type 2? And that's important for you to, everybody has their own reason, but it's sort of a personal commitment as you start this journey. And we have, this is kind of a workbook style. So you can put in your own different numbers, different things like that, working with your doctor. Let's get down to where we talk about, so actually let's stop right here because somebody had a good question on the chat here. What should blood sugar numbers be fasting, before a meal, after a meal? Leslie, can you share that specific question? And I'll stop right here.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. This is from Sir Charles. Is it a regular blood sugar or a fasting blood sugar reading below 100 that I should have before moving to phase 2?
The fasting blood sugar. Yeah, the postprandial, after eating, your blood sugar goes up to 100, even to 110, as high as 120. That's still clearly within normal. That's fine. If your fasting blood sugar is between 70 and 90, that's great. That's really where, if it's consistently in that range on the fasting number, then that's a good time to start moving on to phase 2.
Okay. Was there another question, Joe, somewhere in there about that too? Let's see. I think that was it. Okay. Let's see. My blood sugar tends to go up after exercising. Is this normal? Okay. I guess I'm asking another question here while we're here. Okay.
That might have been it, but.
Okay. So you want me to answer that?
Yeah, let's just answer it and then we'll go back to that.
Okay. After exercise, your blood sugar goes up because you're stressing your body. You're putting more stress hormones out, and the stress hormones cause your blood sugar to go up for several different reasons. You make more glucagon, you make more insulin, you increase your blood sugar to make more energy available. And if you have type 2 and you have a certain amount of insulin resistance, then that's exaggerated. So after exercise is exaggerated, people go, wait a minute, I'm exercising and I'm supposed to have a lower blood sugar. But that's not always the case. And in fact, a lot of the time it's not the case, that you actually need, when you get your insulin resistance down to normal, then you will have decrease. Your blood sugar will go down with exercise.
All right, Joe, we're back to you.
Okay, I'm having trouble finding my mute button, so because I don't want to be coughing in everyone's ears. Okay, good stuff. So I hope that answered your question, Sir Charles. Let's keep rolling through here. Let's get to, so we got our carb counting cheat sheet, which kind of gives a good guide on, different foods you can buy and how much they contain in carbs, which we want to keep low. So phase 1 is 20 grams of carbohydrates per day. And let's see, we talk about supplements. Okay, here we go. Phase 1. So the goal is to reach a fasting blood sugar level under 100 in a test at your doctor's office or on your, home meter as well. So 2 to 4 week time frame. And so this is our kind of the worksheet to, get started. And we talk about what to eat. So here's a list of a lot, and this has been being updated because maple syrup is not necessarily, can't eat a whole lot of that. But yeah, 20 grams or less. And let me show you guys the recipes that we just finished. We redid our recipes because we had some recipes that were a little bit unclear and some had too many carbs in them. So Leslie, you submitted this one, the new bacon and eggs. Tell us about this recipe.
Okay, well, one of the things that I love about all of these is that they're very simple. There's some really simple recipes. And I find that when I'm first starting something different or I'm trying to eat better or making a change in the way that I'm used to doing things, I need it really easy. And so there are some really simple recipes throughout this. We've also created even a weekly meal plan for you. So we've included some of our favorites in that, which also includes a grocery list for the week. So we took all the hard stuff, tried it ourselves, and made it really easy. So that's what we've been doing with this revision. But the new bacon and eggs, this is kind of fun. So cream cheese, if you do dairy, cream cheese will change your life. Am I right? So I like all of the recipes that have cream cheese. So cream cheese, dried thyme, extra large eggs, and bacon. So all of the good things in life, right? But as you can see, that's very low carb. So it's very simple. All you're doing is you're making these literally like hard-boiled eggs or deviled eggs. If you were going to make deviled eggs, that's kind of what these are like. So yeah, super, super good, very simple. And this is also something that, like, if you don't have to have this in the morning, you can have this at any time of day. So you can kind of go through our recipes and pick and choose. I'm really feeling pancakes. Now, pancakes are not on the, yes, I should eat pancakes list, right? But we have a new version of pancakes, cream cheese pancakes. So depends on how you like to work. If you like to map things out for a week, great. I kind of like to change things up every couple of days, depending upon what I know I really am craving. So we had fun with these recipes, and I think you guys are going to really like them too. So yeah. Enjoy.
Yeah, we have several breakfast options here, and I put in my own as well. I got my Joseph's Technicolor Dream Eggs that I like to just put a bunch of veggies in together with some eggs and cheese and some oils and mix it together, and it just makes me happy. So yeah, good stuff. Breakfast, typically people, don't need as much variety. That's how I am. Like, just give me some eggs in the morning or whatever, and I'm good. But then we get into some salads. And Leslie, you submitted this chicken cucumber avocado salad that looks delicious. We've got a tuna salad, a cauliflower potato salad that tastes like potato salad, but it uses cauliflower. And you can see on these recipes, like, we've got how many grams of carbs on this one? 11.9. So this one is like, if you eat the whole thing, yeah, it's going to be, you might be getting close to that 20 pretty soon. But a lot of these options, like, you can be full and be under your 20 grams of carbs in a day.
And you could also have, let's say you have 11 grams of carbs. You're really craving like this barbecue chicken pizza with bacon. How many carbs does that have in it here? Can you scroll? There we go.
Yeah, that's 6.8.
Okay, so
very
actually, just kidding, not that one. But if you have the other salad that's 11, you can kind of plan your day so that, you know, maybe your breakfast only has 2 carbs, or, you know, that's kind of the fun part. You get to play with whatever you're feeling. And I like to kind of know which of these, you know, when you order this, if you get the printed copy, mark it up, write a big 2 carbs by the meal that you, a meal that you like, so that you know, okay, if I'm going to spend all my carbs on this meal, then I know for this one, I'm only going to have 2 or 3 carbs. So lots of options, all low carb and really good food.
Yeah. So this is easy cashew chicken with bell peppers, and it's only got 8.4 grams of carbs. So that sounds delicious. So yeah, we've definitely upgraded our recipe section. And if you've already purchased the diabetes solution kit, we're going to be sending an email out here hopefully in the next few days here, giving you an update, or just getting this to you so you can download it for free. You've already purchased it. You get all the updates that we do. So, and if you haven't purchased this yet, go ahead and head over to bartonwebinar.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, click on the diabetes solution kit, and you can order it right there and begin to enjoy these as well. So yeah, good stuff. We got all sorts of good salmon, veggies, smoothie recipe. I mean, who can have smoothies with 6 grams of carb? That's hard to do nowadays. So cinnamon, strawberries, almonds, almond milk, good stuff. Hey, Dr. Saunders has his favorites here. Let's see. Oh, you had a ceviche recipe in here. Let's see if we can find that one.
I'm really excited to try that ceviche. I haven't
There
tried
it
it
is.
yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we got a half cup of white fish, shrimp, crab meat, lime juice, cucumber, tomato, onion, bell pepper. That sounds amazing. And this has 9 grams of carbs. So good stuff. I'm getting hungry now. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing here. And let's get back to Dr. Saunders. If you want to talk more about the basics of like phase 1, and, you know,
Okay.
maybe start asking some more questions.
Yeah, as you were going through that, I thought of a couple of issues that have come up on our questions a lot of times, and that is starting on phase 1, and people aren't getting the results that would be expected, and you know they're expected to start burning fat, so they should be losing some weight, right? And if their blood sugar should start coming down, and we expect to see that. And it may be like it says in the book, you know, 2 to 4 weeks, but it could be a little longer. Depending on how fast or how slow and how many carbs, for example. But it's not all carbs. Carbs is the biggest portion of it. There's a smaller part of it that for some people is bigger than for others, and that's the protein part. So some of you will have to be careful of protein. Some of you will have to have more of the broccoli and cauliflower and lettuce and asparagus and celery kinds of stuff that is with almost no net carbs, with a lot of fiber in them, and less of the protein. So you know, don't think that your bacon, sausage, cheese, omelet with cream for a drink is healthy if you eat too much of it. So remember eating small amounts, and what you'll find is that you're not as hungry. When you're burning fat, you won't be as hungry. So give your body a chance to burn fat. Don't take in too much of anything, really, but don't think that you can have these huge meals of you know, a 6-egg omelet with a lot of protein, because some people are sensitive to protein. And remember, protein is made into sugar. You know, well, we all can make protein into sugar. So your sugar may not go down if you're eating too much protein. And that's something that we've seen a lot of questions that come in and say, hey, I've been doing this and I'm not seeing the results. Look at that first. Look at how much protein you're eating. That's important.
Yeah, good stuff. So we had a question about the new recipes, Sandra. If you've already purchased the diabetes solution kit, we will send out an email as soon as we get that updated. Otherwise, there is usually when you become a customer, you'll get an email with a login to all of your products from Barton Publishing. So if you can go back and find your original login and go log into the back office or whatever you call it with products, then you should see that in there, but it's not quite uploaded yet. So it'll be available. I'll try to get that done by the end of this week. So, and yeah, we'll have those in there. So Sir Charles had a question about timing of eating, and this is a good question that we get asked quite often. Dr. Saunders, is this a good meal schedule? 9:30 breakfast, 1:30 lunch, 5:30 dinner, 9:30 snack.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, in a sense, yes. If you don't have any snacks in between meals, then you give time for your stomach to reset so that it functions better and you don't get acid reflux and you don't get poor digestion and absorption. So in that sense, yes, that's good. But if you've ever heard of our 6-10 reset program, it's really helpful to skip the evening snack, to go to bed on an empty stomach. So have your 5:30 dinner and have no food after 6, and so have an empty stomach when you go to bed. That allows you to make something called human growth hormone, HGH, which is really important for using up fat and increasing your muscle mass, which improves your metabolism. So there are a lot of things that are improved by not eating after 6 o'clock. So that's why we call it the 6-10 reset. You stop eating by 6, you go to bed by 10. And that allows you to make that human growth hormone. It puts you in a good circadian rhythm. So your sleep-wake cycles are normal. Your adrenal glands start functioning normally. And your pituitary gland starts functioning. And you get that anabolic metabolism to rebuild and repair all of the stuff that's been damaged from diabetes. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's good. The 6-10 reset plan is, we have a Facebook group. If you go to bartonwebinar.com, we have the link to that Facebook group on that website. So you can join us there. And it's sort of a little community of people that ask questions and share encouragement and reminders of, hey, stop eating at 6 o'clock. So, and all that good stuff. All right. Patrick had a question here. You've said before that when we're anabolic, we are sleeping in the dark, non-digesting, and rebuilding. Do these factors account for a spiking morning blood sugar reading, even if we've been fasting the day before?
Well, no. The spiking blood sugar is due to insulin resistance. And as the insulin drops down, because you've been fasting the day before, your blood sugar starts going down and you still have insulin resistance. So the insulin is going to be relatively high. And remember, your fat cells don't get resistant to insulin. So you can start taking out the blood sugar and getting your blood sugar starts dropping too low, at which time then you make something called glucagon that tells your liver, hey, we don't have enough sugar here, start making more sugar. And so that drives the sugar up. And that's an artifact of having this insulin resistance. Over time, when you've done the phase 1 of the diabetes solution kit, then what happens is you start having normal blood sugars in the morning. And even if you're fasting, you just switch to fat burning, and that's fine.
Yeah, good. Hey, if you're watching this live, I would love to get some of your feedback and participation here. So tell me, what do you struggle with more? Stopping eating after 6 p.m. or eating too many carbs, or both? I want to see how big of a struggle is it for people to stop eating at 6?
Well, Joe, I'll start with that.
Okay.
I have a hard time. It's really hard.
It is.
I figure 3 or 4 days a week. I struggle with it's after 6 and I eat something. Yeah, it's not that easy. I've been trying for the last year or so And I'm not always successful, and I don't have a perfect program where I never eat after 6 at any time. That's not the case. You know, it's really, it's a struggle. I have a hard time with it.
It's super simple, but it's not easy. Like the concept itself is simple, but actually following it. So let's see what people are saying here. Put it in the chat. Tell us what you struggle with. So someone else said I have a hard time stopping eating after 6. Someone else said eating too many carbs. I find not eating after 6 is discipline, but so helpful. So that's good. Someone else, it's harder for me to stop eating at 6. So we're seeing that common from a lot of people. And even going to bed at 10 o'clock can be challenging as well. Even if you did stop, like, I don't know, for me, you know, if you don't have a reason to get up super early in the morning, like myself, I'm more likely to stay up late. So I struggle with all of the above.
So there is some light at the end of the tunnel. If you stop eating at 6 most of the time, you know what? It still works. So if you have, for example, they did the studies on rats. The Sachin Panda did research on rats and circadian rhythm, and found that if they took weekends off, they still had the same benefit as if they did it 7 days a week. So all is not lost because you ate, dessert at 7 o'clock at night or something like that. That's not anything that just trying makes a big difference in your life. And so, you know, that's what I've been doing. I've just been trying, and I don't always do it.
That's good. Yeah. So we don't have to be perfectionists is what you're saying.
Exactly.
And so if you blow it one night, like, don't just lose it for the rest of the month because you blew it the one night. Just go back the next day and do your best, and you'll still be experiencing those benefits. Yeah. Can you talk about fasting a little bit? Like, do you have a recommended, like, do it every day, time window eating, or once a week, or mix it up, or
Okay. That is a great question. So the best time to fast is in the evening, so that you go to bed with an empty stomach. That's the best time. So people who do intermittent fasting, if they don't eat till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they're eating, like, they have their window between 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock at night. That's not nearly as good a window as 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. So the intermittent fasting, if you have one meal a day, the best meal to eat by far is breakfast, because breakfast gets your adrenal glands started and gets your good circadian rhythm, and then having an empty stomach at night helps you to have the anabolic metabolism. So the best time to fast is in the evening. Now, if you go longer, if you want to stay anabolic for days at a time and rebuild your body, do like a cleanse and detox and all of that, the best amount of time to fast, the minimum is 3 days. 3 days is what it takes to switch from a carbohydrate burning metabolism to a fat burning metabolism. The new studies, they use 5 days because they don't use fasting. They do what's called a fast mimicking diet, which means you're still eating stuff. You're eating 300 to 500 calories a day, 1,100 calories in some cases. So you have more of an empty stomach, but it's still not the same as fasting. So they use 5 days to get that benefit, whereas you can do it in 3 days if you're doing a real fast. Now, here's something interesting. The research in animals shows that longevity is improved when you don't drink water either. So last week I had a patient come in. I gotta tell you this story. So last week I had a patient come in, and she said that she never sleeps at night, and that's her big problem. So she has no circadian rhythm because she can't sleep at night. And so we talk, so what keeps you up? Well, you know, I get up every hour to pee. And I'm like, okay, so since, you know, she might have like all these pituitary problems, diabetes. There's 2 different kinds of diabetes. And so I'm thinking all these things. And then I started asking her probing questions about how much she drinks. oh, I drink about 5 to 6 of these 32-ounce bottles a day of water. And I'm like, well, that'll do it. So it turns out that what happened was that over a long period of time of doing what everybody seems to say, that we should be drinking all this water, which, by the way, there's no good research for at all. Nobody did any research. Somebody just said, you should be drinking 8 glasses of water a day. But nobody even researched it. There was just, somebody just thought it and said, okay, let's do that.
Sounds good.
And yeah, sounds good. That's so much of medicine is, it sounds good. Turns out it's wrong. So what happens if you drink that much water every day, then you lose the gradient, the concentration gradient in your kidneys. And then you can't concentrate your blood, your urine. You can't hold on to your salts. And so, you know, her pituitary gland might be working just fine, but her kidneys can't function. Her kidneys can't concentrate the urine at night. So she just keeps peeing all night long. So I said, okay, first thing to do is do a fast. No food, no water. And so she did it. No food, no water. And she said she did a whole day without drinking anything. And that was the first night in 2 years she slept all night. It was only one day.
Wow.
So be careful when you're fasting of drinking too much water too. I had somebody who was doing 30 days water only. And this was his idea, not my idea, but I said I would help him through it. So he was drinking a lot of water all this time. So one morning, early morning, he stood up too fast. He got dizzy, fell down, split his head open, ended up in the ER. That's 14 days into his fast. So I said, so he called me up, said, I was in the ER last night. I had to get stitches in my head. And I said, so are you going to continue? He said, yeah, I want to continue. I want to finish this 30 days. So I said, don't drink too much water. Stop. You know, just drink when you're thirsty. That's okay. And so he did. And he did the rest of the time and didn't have any passing out or dizziness or anything. So if you find when you're fasting, you're getting dizzy, sometimes it's because you're drinking too much water. And so no food, no water actually was better than just no food. So keeping your stomach empty is the key to fasting. Whether you do 3 days or 5 days or 30 days or whatever, having an empty stomach. Now, if you're doing 30 days, obviously you're going to drink some water or you better. And there's some really good books on fasting. In fact, 100 years ago, Sinclair Lewis wrote a book called The Fasting Cure, which was quite remarkable in its day. And you know what? His principles are still true. Even 100 years later, all the research has proven that, you know what, that's better than calorie restriction, better than dieting, better than any other way of doing it.
Sinclair Lewis, that's not the same person as C.S. Lewis, is it?
No. Sinclair Lewis wrote The Jungle. He had some books that were rather persuasive in their day, rather important.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to take a quick little side trail and talk about this product, neurometabolic iodine. And Dr. Saunders, if you could talk about this, I'm going to show people how they can get it. But let's say today's program is sponsored by this neurometabolic iodine. And so I'll show people how they can get it. But talk about how does iodine work with metabolism and type 2 specifically?
Okay. So iodine is very important. It's a necessary nutrient. You can't live without it. And most people in the, at least in the Midwest and many areas of the United States are deficient in iodine, like sincerely deficient. Like they did a study 15 years ago on high school girls, because girls need more iodine than boys, in the Midwest. And they found that 12% of them were deficient in iodine. And everybody goes, oh, I use salt, you know, it's in the salt. No, only if it's iodized salt that you're using. If you're using Himalayan salt or sea salt or kosher salt or any other specialty salt, there's no iodine in it at all. Unless they add iodine, there's no iodine in it. So people say, oh, I'm getting it in my salt. No, you're not. If the salt at McDonald's doesn't have iodine, the salt in all the canned food that you're eating doesn't have iodine. So you can't look to that as a source of iodine. Now, if you're eating seaweed, then that is a source of iodine. but sea salt is not. So people often make that mistake. So iodine is really important for women especially because their estrogens and the conversion of estrogens to the different types of estrogen the enzymes require iodine on top of the thyroid problem. So that's why you see more women with thyroid problems than men. And you see more women with, well, of course, women are going to have breast cysts and those kinds of things because of a lack of iodine. Iodine is not just for the thyroid. Everybody thinks, oh, thyroid. And if you have an enlarged thyroid, like a goiter, like those high school girls had, 12% of the high school girls actually had goiter, then you know you need iodine. And iodine won't necessarily shrink your goiter down. You still have a goiter and you need to take iodine. And what bugs me is that very often people with goiters will go to their endocrinologist and they'll go, oh, yeah, look at there, you got a goiter. Huh, look, goiter. And then they say, let's do surgery to remove that goiter. Or let's give you some radioactive iodine to kill your goiter. And you know what? The simple thing is add iodine, for heaven's sakes. If somebody has a goiter, you know they're deficient in iodine. You should just add iodine. And so few doctors will recommend that you take iodine. They'll instead recommend the treatments for the goiter without looking at why you have the goiter in the first place and go, oh, you also need to take iodine. Even if you do get treatment for the goiter, you still need iodine because that's what that's telling you. So iodine is necessary. It's very important for metabolism. And if your thyroid gland is not functioning right, then your metabolism doesn't work right, and you're more prone to getting insulin resistance and diabetes. So it's an important part of your metabolism because people gain weight, they get more insulin resistance, and all that stuff starts happening. So while you're working on all your other parts of metabolism, like switching to fat-burning metabolism, iodine can be a necessary ingredient and an important nutrient. Now, can I say one other thing, Joe?
Please do.
Iodine, especially in women again, has been shown to prevent cancer, breast cancer especially. And you go, wow, that doesn't make any sense. But because iodine is important for the nutrients to convert estrogen to the right ratios of estrogen, if you don't get those right ratios, the estrogen dominance can cause breast cysts, for example, and fibrocystic breast disease is also related to breast cancer. So in an indirect way, your iodine is also a cancer preventative, especially for women.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Thank you very much for sharing about that. So I'm going to share my screen real quick again. And here we go. Okay, so I am on bartonwebinar.com, and this is where you can register to watch or join our webinar that we're currently on. But if you're not live right now, that might be beneficial for you. And here is where you can go to our YouTube channel. Just click right here. You can also go to diabetesreversed.com. Here's the latest, one of our latest webinars. We talked about acid reflux. Here's a link to the 610 Reset Facebook group. And then down here we have recommended products, and I did not get the iodine product added in here yet, but I'm going to show you how to find it. So if you go to, let's pick, Healthy Gut Support. If you click on that to the store, and then if you are out of Healthy Gut Support, prebiotic, probiotic, digestive enzyme, you can order that here. Multiple bottles, get lower pricing. But if you're looking for iodine, just click on the shop button right up here. And then bada bing, there it is. A beautifully designed purple and gold bottle of iodine, my favorite colors. I may be a Vikings fan. And click on that. And you can see you get a 2-ounce bottle, which is like a 2-month supply. And it comes with a little pipette. You can add this to your water. You can barely taste it. It actually tastes pretty good. I like it. I add it to my water often, and I encourage all the women in my life to do so as well, like you mentioned. And so, yeah, if you want to get one bottle, you can just add it to the cart right there. And the description is coming soon, but Yeah, so this is today's webinar sponsored by Neurometabolic Iodine. And we sourced this from a friend of mine who has been producing this in his manufacturing facility in Toronto, Canada. He is the just very particular about getting the best quality ingredients. And so this is really good stuff. So we'll have more information about this coming in an email soon, but that was it. Just want to share how people can get that.
Joe.
Yeah.
Click on the other picture of the iodine, the back of the bottle.
Oh yeah.
At the bottom.
Yep.
How much iodine is in there?
150 micrograms per dropper.
Per 1 milliliter dropper. Okay. Yeah. So a daily dose of that would be just fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can barely taste it. If I had to try to explain how it tastes, it's sort of like a chlorine taste, but I would say it's like less. You can barely taste it. To me, it tastes like fresh, like refreshing.
It's sort of like an iodine taste.
Yes. And if you wanted to, so this is what's different about this is it's distilled in water. Like a lot of times, iodine might be more of a brownish yellow in a, on a dropper, but that's more of like the skin type or transdermal that you could put on your skin. Where this is, you actually drink this. And can you have, like, if you were to accidentally drink this whole bottle, what would happen?
Nothing. You could take some doses. If you go to the health food store, they have this type of iodine that you could get 50 milligrams, which is more than this whole bottle, in one dose. And what happens is, that's the way they test it, is you take the 50 milligram dose and then you check your urine over the next 24 hours. And if you should get almost the entire 50 milligrams peed out in your urine during the next 24 hours in order to indicate that you're sufficient, that you have all of your iodine receptors are used up.
Yeah, okay. Another way you can find this is if you go to bartonnutrition.com. I'm going to just double check and make sure it's there. So yeah, right there, boom. So we're in the process of changing our website over from Garden OG to Barton Nutrition. So anyways, it's the same shop, store page and all that. Okay, let's get back and finish up here. Let's see if we have any more questions that came in. Okay, Grace asked, does being a night person versus a morning person have anything to do with metabolism?
Yes, this is big. Okay, thank you for asking that. So there's the circadian rhythm, ironically, doesn't really change whether you're a night person or a morning person. So your adrenal glands function better in the morning than they do at night, whether you're a night person or a morning person. So if you've ever had like you're getting tired around 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and you're going, I'm feeling a little tired, and you push through and you get a second wind and you go, wow, and I'm not even tired, I can keep going. And that is, you've released adrenaline and cortisol, you've released your stress hormones to keep you going, but that's going to prevent you from getting in the anabolic mode. So they did studies on, what about like nurses that say, well, I'm a night person, I'm a night owl, I just love the night shift, and then I sleep better during the day, and that's my style. They don't get anabolic. People that work swing shifts in factories, they did studies on police officers, and during the times that they're working on the night shift, they don't get anabolic. That you have to work with your circadian rhythm. So the 10 o'clock at night is pretty much going to bed at 10 o'clock at night is like really important. So if you were to fly to China and say, okay, I'm just going to work on the night shift on China and I'll just stay on my same schedule. No, because the way the light works, the way our circadian rhythm works, within 2 weeks, you're going to be on China time, and then you won't get anabolic if you don't go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. So that is, nothing is like everybody and all-inclusive, universal, but pretty much you have to consider that most, if not all people, are on their circadian rhythm, they need to go to bed by 10 o'clock at night, or sleep by 10 o'clock at night.
Right. Yep. Okay. Quick question from Robert. Please explain the value of the A1C test.
Okay. A1C is a long-term blood sugar test. So what we're measuring in the A1C is how many molecules of sugar are attached to each hemoglobin molecule inside your red blood cells. So those red blood cells have hemoglobin, and then there's sugar attached to those. And if you have high blood sugar, you have more sugar attaching than if you have low blood sugar. And what's really cool about that is you can look at that number, and if your number is 4, then you have really low average blood sugar, because that red blood cell has an average lifespan of about 3 months. So you're looking at an average of maybe 1 to 1.5 months of what your blood sugar is generally. So if your number is around 5.0, then your blood sugar is around 100 average over the last couple of months. So that's what the value of the hemoglobin A1C is. You're not looking at an instant in time of blood sugar, you're looking at an average sugar. So someone in the instant in time might have a blood sugar of 150 because all of the stuff that's happening, they stressed out and they just ate. And so they have this high blood sugar. But if you look at their hemoglobin A1C, it's 5.2. And you go, well, clearly that's not diabetic in the diabetes range. So their average was normal, even though their instant blood sugar could have been high.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good test. Okay. Let's see. Anne wanted to know, okay, back to the 6:10 reset. What if I stop eating at 7 and go to bed at 11? I think you kind of already covered that. You actually kind of covered that. So it is really that 10 o'clock time.
It's really the 10 o'clock. And the rule isn't stopping eating at 6. The 6 is the guideline. The rule is have an empty stomach.
Yeah.
So if you eat a half a pizza and drink a pint of beer at 6 o'clock in the evening, you will not have an empty stomach at 10.
No.
But if you eat a salad with a vinegar and oil dressing at 7 o'clock at night, then you'll have an empty stomach when you go to bed at 10. So the rule is the empty stomach at 10 o'clock. What you eat will make a difference. The 6 is a guideline.
So we have a great testimonial from our friend Patrick. He said he used to get up 6 times per night to pee as well. Since following the 6:10 reset, I usually sleep through the night. So he said, pretty sure I was drinking so much fluid to flush the high blood sugar. So way to go, Patrick. Good to see you seeing some great results from that. All right. Let's see here. Hey, Krish. All right. We cannot have a webinar without a good question from Krish. Okay. What else besides, let's see, what else does black tea contain besides caffeine? I'm unable to handle regular tea anymore, as have a severe bloating that occurs and dizziness also sets in, which makes me very uncomfortable. When I substitute green tea for regular tea, I feel fine, and my fasting blood sugar has almost come down from 125 to 101. Please comment on this.
Okay, I can't tell you what you're reacting to and what it contains. There's a list, of course, of chemicals that it contains. Black tea has a lot of histamine in it, and histamine, people often feel like they're having an allergic reaction from coffee and tea because of the histamine that it contains. If they don't process that histamine well, so that's a fairly common thing to feel like you're having a reaction to tea. The green tea will have a little less histamine, and then it also has something called EGCG, which is egalitins, which decreases inflammation and changes it actually works in the genes to decrease inflammation. So there are potentially a whole bunch of reasons why that could happen. But yes, it can, and yes, that's a real thing. All right.
Well, to close us out, I have a funny little personal story I'll share that has something to do with tea. So my goatee has been getting more and more gray over the years, and so, but I don't like using any, you know, chemicals or artificial things like that. But I finally found that it's called Mountain Beard Guy or something. And he uses like an all natural thing for, so I'm like, all right, let's give it a try. So anyways, it's a green powder and you mix it with hot water and then you put it on your beard and let it sit for like 20 minutes and then wash it off. And he's like, and it says like after a couple hours, it should, you know, you should see some change. Well, mine basically turned green and I was supposed to do it on like a Friday night, you know, let it go overnight. And I did it on a Sunday morning before church. So I go to church Sunday and I've got this pretty bright green goatee going on. That was pretty funny. So, and our church didn't require a mask, but I'm thinking like, if there's ever a time to have a mask on, this would probably be the good time to do it. But anyways, it did eventually go away and some of the gray is gone and it turned brown, but it smells, so the mixture was like, it smelled just like green tea. I'm thinking like, that's gotta be just what it is. They just aren't telling you the ingredients of it. So I'm like, yeah, that's interesting. So multi-uses of green tea. Anyways, this was a good call. It covered a lot of ground, and I think we're going to start covering more of the basics like every other week or so. Next week we'll probably have a little variation of a topic related to diabetes, but I think it's good just for us to continue teaching the basics because we always learn new things each time we do that. And we also are reminded of the most important things, and it's good to continue to kind of go over the basics. And so thanks again, Dr. Saunders. Great information today, a lot of good stuff, and we're getting some good last minute comments from people agreeing. Good to cover the basics. So yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for submitting your questions, and we will see you next time. If you haven't registered again or have any other things you want to find, links that we've talked about today, just go to bartonwebinar.com. And thanks, Leslie, for running the back end, getting us recorded. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again, Dr. Saunders. And I want to give you one last outgoing word to close us.
Okay. If I could reiterate just one thing, and that is when you're doing the program, don't eat too much. Yeah, we have a lot of good recipes, but eating too much is an issue, even if you're eating low carb.
Awesome. All right. Great. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care and God bless. See you next time.